Jill was 4 years old. She was a clever child, but she was not very pretty. She went to school every day, and she loved her lessons. She was always at the top of her class, and she learnt to read and write very quickly. One day, her mother said to her, "Aunt Cathy and Aunt Judy are going to visit us tomorrow. They live in Canada, and you haven't met them, because they very seldom come to England. They're going to have lunch with us." The aunts arrived at 12 o'clock the next day, and Jill's mother gave them some coffee. Then she said, "I'm going to make lunch now," and went into the kitchen. Jill stayed in the living room with her aunts. Aunt Cathy looked at Jill and then said to Aunt Judy quietly, "She isn't very pretty, is she?"
"No,"
said Jill quickly.
"but I'm very clever."
Now answer these questions. Number 1.
What did Jill's mother say to her one day?
Number 2.
When did the aunts arrive?
Number 3.
What did Jill's mother give them?
Number 4.
What did Aunt Judy say about Jill?
Number 5.
And what did Jill answer?
Mrs. Grace was 40. One day she said to her husband, "I weighed myself this morning. I weigh 70 kilos. "Is that bad?" answered Mr. Grace. "Yes, it is," Mrs. Grace said. "It's very bad. Each week I'm heavier now. I'm going to eat less, and I'm going to have a walk every day." The next morning, she put her coat on and began walking. But during her walk, it rained, and the rain went through her coat. That evening, she said to her husband, "I want a good coat for my walks. I'm going to go to the shops tomorrow, and I'm going to buy one." The next morning, she went into a shop and looked at some coats with a salesgirl. She liked a seal coat very much. "This seal coat's nice," she said to the salesgirl. "But does the rain come through it?" The salesgirl smiled and answered, "Have you ever seen a seal with an umbrella?"
Now answer these questions. Number 1.
What did the rain do during Mrs. Grace's first walk?
Number 2.
What did she say to her husband that evening?
Number 3.
What did she do the next morning?
Number 4.
What did she say to the salesgirl?
Number 5.
What did the salesgirl answer?
Ted worked in a factory, but he was not very good, and he lost his job one day. His wife looked in the newspaper and said, "One of the banks wants a guard." "I'm going to go there tomorrow," Ted said, "and I'm going to ask for that job. It's quite an easy one, and I'm quite strong." The next morning, he went to the bank at 9:30 and said, "I want that job here, the guard's job." A man gave him a piece of paper. There were a lot of questions on it. "Write your answers under the questions," the man said to Ted. One of the questions was, "Have you ever been in prison?" Ted smiled happily and wrote "No" under this question. Then he looked at the next question. It was, "Why?" He thought for a long time, and then he wrote, "Because the police have never caught me."
Now answer these questions. Number 1.
What did the man at the bank do? And what did he say to Ted?
Number 2.
What was one question on the piece of paper?
Number 3.
What did Ted answer?
Number 4.
What was the next question?
Number 5.
And what was Ted's answer?
Ken was 50, and his wife Liz was 48. They had a very old car. "I'm going to sell this car," Ken said to Liz last month. But nobody wanted it, because it was old and did not run well. Last Friday, Ken said to Liz, "I've got some work in Boxbury. Come with me and do your shopping there." Liz was very happy, because her husband very seldom took her out, and she usually shopped in their small village. Ken drove their old car to the River Dee, to the other side. It was the shortest way to Boxbury. The ferryman came to Ken and said, £1 for the car and 25 pence for the passenger. Ken answered, "Take the car for £1, but I am not going to sell my wife for less than 50 pence.
Now answer these questions. Number 1.
What did Ken say to his wife last Friday?
Number 2.
Why was she happy then?
Number 3.
Where did Ken drive first?
Number 4.
What did the ferryman say to him?
Number 5.
And what did Ken answer?
Mr. Brown had a beautiful shop. He sold sweets, and a lot of children came and bought them after school. But some of them looked into the window of the shop first and put their fingers on the glass, and Mr. Brown did not like dirty windows. Then last week he made a big notice. On it he wrote, "Children, do not put your fingers on this glass. It is dangerous." And then he put it up in the window of his shop. The shop on Mr. Brown's left was a shoe shop, and his friend, Tom Jones, worked there. Tom saw the notice and was surprised. He went into Mr. Brown's shop and said to him, "Why is the glass in your shop window dangerous, Alf? What does it do to the children?" Mr. Brown smiled. "The glass doesn't do anything to the children, Tom," was his answer, "but I give them a hard smack."
Now answer these questions. Number 1.
What did Mr. Brown sell in his shop?
Number 2.
What did some of the children do?
Number 3.
What did Mr. Brown write on his notice?
Number 4.
What did Tom ask Mr. Brown?
Number 5.
And what did Mr. Brown answer?
Dick Leonard was the captain of a small ship, the London Flower. Sometimes it took engines from one port to another. Sometimes it took furniture. And sometimes it took other things. But sometimes there was no work for it, and the ship was empty. Then Captain Leonard was not happy, because he loved being busy, and he loved going from one port to another all the time. But the other men on the ship were lazy. They did not like work much. They liked sitting and doing nothing. One day, Captain Leonard did not see two of them for a long time. He looked for them. He opened a door and shouted down some stairs. "Who's there?" "William, Captain," was the answer. "What are you doing there, William?" the captain asked. "Nothing, Captain," William answered. "Is Tom there?" the captain shouted then. "Yes, he is," was the answer. "What's he doing?" the captain asked. "He's helping me, Captain," William answered.
Now answer these questions. Number 1.
What were the first question and answer?
Number 2.
What were the second question and answer?
Number 3.
What were the third question and answer?
Number 4.
What was Captain Leonard's last question?
Number 5.
And what was William's answer?
Mr. Hughes lived 20 kilometres from London, and his office was in the city. He went to work by train and bus at 8 o'clock in the morning, and got home at 7:30 in the evening. It rains rather a lot in England, and Mr. Hughes usually took an umbrella with him to London, but he often lost umbrellas. He lost them in buses, in trains, and in shops. His wife often said to him, "Umbrellas are expensive, David, and you buy one every week. Bring this one home this evening." One evening, Mr. Hughes saw an umbrella in his train. "Today, I'm not going to lose my umbrella," he said happily, and he took the umbrella, got out of the train at his station, and brought the umbrella home. His wife saw it and began laughing. "But David," she said, "you didn't take an umbrella with you this morning. That one isn't yours."
Now answer these questions. Number 1.
What did Mr. Hughes often do with umbrellas?
Number 2.
What did his wife say?
Number 3.
What did he see in his train one evening?
Number 4.
What did he say and do?
Number 5.
What did his wife say then?
Edward was at school. He was 16, and he lived with his mother and father near London. Then he left school and worked in a factory for a year. And then, in August, he said to his parents, "I'm going to have a nice holiday in the country now, and I'm going to go there alone." He did not have much money, but he found the name of a small, cheap hotel, and he went there by train and bus. His room in the hotel was very small, but it was clean, and Edward was happy, because he was alone. The first evening, he went down to the dining room of the hotel at dinner time and sat down at a small table. The young waitress brought him a plate, and Edward looked at it. Then he said to the girl, "Waitress, this plate's wet." "That's your soup," the girl answered.
Now answer these questions. Number 1.
Why did Edward go to a cheap hotel?
Number 2.
Where did he have dinner the first evening?
Number 3.
What did the young waitress bring him?
Number 4.
What did he say to her?
Number 5.
And what did she answer?
Jack was 5 years old. His small friends had cats and dogs in their houses, but Jack's parents did not have any animals. Then one day, Jack said to his mother, "I want a cat, Mummy." His mother did not say yes or no. First, she wanted to talk to her husband. That evening, she said to her husband, "Joe, all Jack's friends have got dogs or cats, and we have no animals. Now Jack wants one." "A cat's easier than a dog, Helen," her husband answered. "Our neighbour's cat's going to have kittens," Helen said. "They aren't going to want them all." "Good," answered Joe. "Ask them for one." A few days later, the neighbour's cat had 4 kittens, and after a few weeks, the neighbours gave one to Jack's mother. But then Jack pulled the kitten's tail, and his mother said to him, "Don't pull the kitten's tail, Jack." Jack answered,
I'm not pulling it, Mummy. I'm holding it, and the kitten's pulling.
Now answer these questions. Number 1.
What did Jack say to his mother one day?
Number 2.
Where did Jack's kitten come from?
Number 3.
What did Jack do to the kitten?
Number 4.
What did his mother say to him then?
Number 5.
And what did he answer?
Joe Smith sold his house and bought a new one. He put all his furniture in a truck and drove to the new house. There, he drove the truck into the garage and took the furniture out. Then the truck was empty, and Joe looked at it. "The truck's higher now, because it's empty," he said to himself. "It isn't going to get out of the garage again." He began driving it out very slowly, but it hit the top of the door. Joe said, "What am I going to do now?" But then he went to all his new neighbours and said, "Please come and sit in my truck." They were surprised, but they went and sat in the truck. It was heavy now, and Joe drove it out of the garage easily. The neighbours were happy, and Joe was happy too. "Now all of us are friends," he said.
Now answer these questions. Number 1.
Why did the truck hit the top of the door?
Number 2.
What did Joe say to his neighbours then?
Number 3.
And what did they do?
Number 4.
Why did the truck not hit the top of the door now?
Number 5.
What did Joe say then?